specifically, like proof for the idea that they pay $100 billion per year in taxes. Sure, that's actually coming from the House Republicans. All that you have to do is look up undocumented migrants, $95.6 billion, 2022, and you'll be given a report by the House Republicans that would demonstrate that in the fiscal year of 2022 alone, they paid $95.7 billion in taxes on the federal, state, and local level.
All right, yeah, you got me then.
Okay, is there anything else that you wanted to go over?
No, that was honestly the main reason. Sorry.
All right, have a good one, man.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to get that next guest up in here. That guy was pretty quick. Let's go ahead and see what the next guest, Smog, has to say. What's going on, Smog? Do you support Trump?
Shit.
What's that?
Hello?
Hey, what's going on, man? Do you support Trump?
No, I do not.
All right, bye, Smog. We're going to move on to the next guest. We just banned Smog from the Discord server. This is a Discord server specifically for Trump supporters, y'all. What is going on? Tink, do you support Trump?
Hello.
Hey, what's up, man? Do you support the president?
No, I just want to say I'm a fan. Just keep doing what you're doing, bro.
Well, I appreciate you so much, but please, this Discord server is only for Trump supporters, but that is incredibly kind of you. We're going to move on to the next guest. Here we go. Kate, thank you so much for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. That is incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much for the love. What is going on, Kate? Do you support Trump? Okay.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Okay, well, Kay just left super duper very quickly, quite frankly. Oh man, this is terrible, man. Very bad. Hey, what's going on? Do you support Trump? Davey Wavy, do you support the president? Okay, well, it doesn't look like Davey Wavy is here. He just wants to stay on mute, so we'll just go ahead and send him back to the queue. We're going to go ahead and try to get that next guest, John, up in here. All right, well, it just looks like John wanted to come up and play a song with the N-word in it. We're going to go ahead and kick John. Just simply move on to the next guest. Here we go. What's going on? Do you support Trump?
Yes.
Okay, what is that?
He's just better than any Democrat
Okay.
could ever.
So why is he specifically better than Kamala Harris?
Specifically Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
Dude, she's a fucking liar.
Oh, okay. What's the biggest lie that Kamala Harris has ever told?
Everything. Like, she has lied about almost everything.
So you're basically saying every single statement that has come out of her mouth has been a lie. So that's like a very, like, obviously, like, hyperbolic fake statement. The reason why I'm asking you for the biggest lie that she's ever told is to demonstrate that Donald Trump has told bigger.
What's the biggest lie Trump has ever told?
I think that is a very good question. The answer to that extremely good question would be when he denied the outcome of the 2020 election and then lied
because he
about
won.
Biden rigging it, and then actually tried to rig it from Biden with the use of his fake electorate plot. And no, sir, he did not win the 2020 election.
Yes, he... What?
Oh,
and no, he did not try and rig it.
Oh, okay, well, he actually admitted to trying.
Where's
to
your
rig
proof?
That's another great question. You're asking great questions today. The answer to that second great question is him testifying in the congressional indictments into the Supreme Court, where he straight up admitted that he sent fake slates of electorates to 7 key swing states that Biden won to send fake votes back to Congress saying Trump won, and that he pressured Mike Pence's VP into certifying them as real, and that he pressured the head of the DOJ, Bill Barr, into falsely announcing widespread voter fraud. And he had to admit to all these things to appeal for presidential immunity. In fact, he argued that the reason he was justified in these actions was because Biden stole it from him first, so him stealing it back was merely just verifying the authentic outcomes of the said election.
Dean, why the fuck do you expect me to believe a word you just said?
Well, because it happened, it's reality, and in fact, you could even hear his own lawyer, Will Scharf, kind of repeat everything I just said in his interviews on Fox News and CNN.
And where can I find this information, Dean? Like, why would I take it from your word of mouth? You are the same person who lost the debate to Ben Shapiro, of all people. Like, you are not a trustable source.
What did I debate Ben Shapiro on?
I don't know, dude.
I don't think you're a trustable source, sir. If you're going to claim that I lost,
I am a very trustable source.
If you're going to claim that I lost,
dude, we can watch it together. We can watch it together. We can totally fucking watch it together.
The cool thing about Discord is I could just mute guests and they can't unmute themselves. If you're gonna claim that I lost the debate to Ben Shapiro, at least know what I debated him on. like, holy shit, dude. Like, be real. Use your fucking brain, dude. Like, for the first time in your life, turn that shit on. Okay? It is so simple. So, anyways, once again, I'm giving you all the evidence that you need to justify these claims. If you go on Google and you just type in Trump fake electorate plot Will Scharf, you'll be able to find clips of Will Scharf speaking.
Of proof. It's your burden of proof. Why? I'm not looking up shit.
So
Show me.
I'm telling you what to look up.
Bro, share your screen.
Okay, so we could do that too. I think that's a great plan. In fact, I even forgot that I could do that. I'm going to be honest. Everyone watching, just go ahead and just give me one moment to pull this up.
Because you start spurting and shit, dude. You do that every debate. You and Parker.
Isn't that like... Wait. Isn't that like a slur that refers to like individuals with Asperger's?
Nobody.
Then what does it mean?
I don't know. It just means you're going crazy, buddy.
Okay, well, Rashid, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and just server mute you for the rest of the conversation here. Because like I typically just do kick people out that use like derogatory language. Like I think it's like really weird. And like on top of just being like harmful as fuck. But before I kick you, I'm just going to play you this clip of oh, he actually left himself. I was going to play him this clip of Donald Trump's lawyer attesting to everything I just said before I was going to kick him. He just left himself. Let's go ahead and roll that.
That would
clip.
constitute enough for a trial?
Well, we would say alternate slates of electors. And as we argued before the Supreme Court, alternate slates of electors have been a method used by previous presidents, most notably Ulysses S. Grant, to ensure the integrity of prior elections. So we believe the assembly of those alternate slates of electors was an official act of the presidency. That's what we argued before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has reserved that issue for determination by the district court, and we'll see how arguments fall in front of the district court.
So anyways, he left before I could play that to him. That is Will Scharf. That is Donald Trump's lawyer, specifically speaking about how they literally tried to steal the election from Biden. So I mean, he couldn't handle the heat, so he dipped. Typical Trump supporter. What can we say? What's going on, Splooge? What a crazy name. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Why do you support him?
Just a quick question before. Did you hear that Harry could beat you in a boxing fight?
Well, I don't know about that one, but
You think you could take him?
I mean, sir, I did UFC for quite a long time, but that's neither here nor there. Why do you support the president?
He said he could whoop your ass. He said he's like, nah, you don't want him in the boxing ring. So what do you think?
Okay, professional instigator. Now instigation aside, tell us why you support the president.
No. You got to answer my question first.
We're here to talk about Donald Trump.
You're scared. You're
not
scared
your
to fight Harry.
fantasies.
You're scared to fight Harry.
I mean, whatever keeps you up at night or whatever makes you sleep at
Nah,
night,
you're
sorry.
scared, man. He's going to whoop your ass. You wouldn't fight him in the boxing ring.
Just go,
Oh, no.
go write the fanfic, man. Have fun. But I want you to tell us why you support the president.
Nah, man.
Are you
He'll take
scared? Are you scared
He's
to tell us why you
light
support
work.
the president?
Harry and
Are you scared to tell us why you support the president? Wow. So you're telling me that you support the president and you don't have one single fucking reason why? I mean, let's just go ahead and see how like intellectually outmatched you are here real quick. So I'm going to name one reason why Donald Trump is a bad president, and then you're going to respond to it, okay? So one reason why Donald Trump is a bad president is because its economic policy is barreling America towards a recession, crashing U.S. markets, and redistributing wealth from the poor to the rich. Let's see if you have a response to that. But let me guess, you're just going to want to talk about
Harry's the
boxing.
A side. Harry's
Exactly.
gonna
You're
knock you
scared
out.
of responding. You're scared of responding.
Like-
I'm going to go and give you one last chance to actually give me a response about the president. So let's just try one last time, okay? Splooge, I'm going to make this very clear. If you do not give a response to the claim that I made about why Donald Trump is a bad president, we're going to kick you and laugh at you for like just being a spineless Republican that doesn't have a single fucking clue why you support the politicians you do. So let's just try one last time.
Nah, Harry's going to knock you out in one. It's okay.
Exactly, bro. Dude, phenomenal. Thank you so much for the demonstration of the average intellect of a Trump supporter. Great. What's going on? New guest? All right, it looks like they dipped. We're going to go to get that next guest up in here. Man, we are not having any luck with finding any Trump supporters. No luck with finding any Trump supporters. I mean, this is terrible.
Hello?
Hey, what's going on, man? Do you support the president?
Say that again?
Do you support the president?
Currently, no, but
All right, we are just looking for people that do. Moving on to the next guest, you guys. By the way, we don't have too many people in the queue right now. So if you do support Trump, make sure to hop into that Discord, either link in the pin message on YouTube or like recent over on Twitter. What's going on? Do you support the president?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Why?
So, I believe that Trump, first and foremost, well, we don't even have to bring up the economy or anything like that because it's not looking too good right now. But Trump, he has a very pro-Israel record, and I am Jewish. And I think that in order for us to have a safe America, we need to have a safe Israel. So,
Okay, so like, I just want to clarify that you like ethnically cleansing Palestinians so much that you voted for the guy that you have now admitted to as a person that has been terrible for the American economy, right? That's your position?
I never said terrible for the American economy. He could be doing better. I think the tariffs are like they have some potential, but what I do think is that for you to say ethnically cleansing, that is extremely that is you're reaching Yahtzee level anti-Semitism. We are
Are you
defending our right
trolling?
to exist.
Wait. Are you trolling?
Do you believe Israel has a right to exist?
No. We're not going to move off of your claim that me saying that Donald Trump's plan for the Gaza Strip is ethnic cleansing. Are you kidding me? Wait, first, I think that we need to define what ethnic cleansing is. Would you accept the definition from Oxford Language?
Sure, you can use whatever definition you'd like. I don't think it's ethnically cleansing, though.
Well, let's first agree on a definition, and then we can determine of what Donald Trump's plan is for the Gaza Strip is or is not ethnic cleansing. So the definition of ethnic cleansing, according to Oxford Languages, is the mass expulsion or killing of members of an unwanted ethnic or religious group in society. Can you agree to that definition?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Well, this definition of ethnic cleansing would fit Donald Trump's plan for the Gaza Strip, as he wants to forcefully expel the 2.1 million Palestinians living on the Gaza Strip to Jordan and Egypt, while then giving them no right to return. Okay, the reason that this would fulfill all the necessary criteria of the definition of ethnic cleansing, as it is the mass expulsion of 2.1 million people that would fulfill the existing inside of an unwanted ethnic group as the Palestinians living on the Gaza Strip. So, I mean, does that make it clear enough?
So, yeah, so here's the thing about that claim. So we must, these things need to happen in order for the Jewish people to be saved. These people have been next to us for a long time, and in their doctrine, these Hamas people that you're supporting right now, each and every single one of these Hamas people you're supporting, they have in their doctrine to destroy the Jewish people. So do you believe, I'll ask you again, do you believe Israel has a right to exist?
I want to clarify on what you just said there, because you actually conceded, but you just justified it. So you have now shifted from stating that no, Israel and Donald Trump's plan for Gaza is not ethnic cleansing, to stating, well,
I think
it
Israel
is
and America need to take
don't interrupt me,
whatever
I'm going
measure.
to put you on that server mute.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So you went from saying that no, it's not ethnic cleansing, but after I just define ethnic cleansing to you and I describe exactly how Donald Trump's plan for Gaza fits that definition, you are now saying, well, it is ethnic cleansing. It's just justified. So I want you to go ahead and say that out loud. That you think it's a good thing to ethnically
No, I
cleanse
don't. I don't
Palestinian
think.
people.
Here's the thing: we are not planning on literally, because what you're saying is that we're trying to exterminate them. We're trying to replace. We're trying to move them somewhere else, right? So that way, you're saying that because ethnically cleansing is technically
with a
we
yes,
just literally wipe.
with a yes or a no, is Donald Trump's plan for Gaza ethnic cleansing or is it not ethnic cleansing? Let's just start with the basics.
No.
Okay, so we agreed on the definition of ethnic cleansing, that definition being the mass expulsion or killing of members of an unwanted ethnic group in society. Please tell me what criteria of this definition Donald Trump's plan for Gaza does not fulfill.
Well, if it's expulsion, then yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay, so it is ethnic cleansing.
Well, it's a terrorist group.
Oh, so you think that all Palestinians are terrorists?
I never said all Palestinians are terrorists.
I mean, you just said, well, it's good to ethnically cleanse the 2.1. You just said, so you just said that the individuals in which will be ethnically cleansed, the 2.1 million Palestinians living on the Gaza Strip, are terrorists, therefore ethnically cleansing them is okay.
I never said it was okay. I said it's justified because we, as the Jewish
Okay, so
people,
do you know
in
that
our
the
home.
term okay is equivalent to the term justified?
Okay, listen. Do you believe Israel has a right to exist?
We're not going to move on to your question until you respond to mine. Because I don't want
Okay,
to allow
what's
you
your
to pivot
question?
off
I'll
the
answer it.
conversation on if
All
or
right,
if
fine.
it
I'll
is
concede
not
it's ethnic cleansing
ethnic
if that's
cleansing.
what you want to
Okay,
call it.
wait,
else?
wait. So you don't think it's appropriate to call it ethnic cleansing? So tell me what criteria of ethnic cleansing Donald Trump's plan does not fulfill.
Okay, we can say it's ethnic cleansing. Are you saying?
Okay,
Now, can I
great. So I
ask
have a
you the
question. Do you think that ethnic cleansing is always wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so then Donald Trump's plan for Gaza is wrong.
No, because it is a heuristic to the existence of the land of Israel.
So
our
then ethnic
ancestral
cleansing
homeland,
is
which we
not
have
always
been.
wrong.
Okay, so it is. Are you religious?
Are you pivoting? You told me that ethnic cleansing was always wrong, and then you went on to say that Donald Trump's plan for Gaza is ethnic cleansing, but it's not wrong.
Wow, I'm getting disgusting messages by your viewers. They're literally saying double H and FU N-word with a hard R. That is disgusting. But
okay, well,
what I
first and
want to
foremost,
say, and this is the problem here, you're pretty much making us seem like Yahtzees.
hey,
We are the
hey,
people
wait,
who have
actually,
been
I
ethnically
want to.
cleansed.
Well, 1 second, I want to ask you about that. Did you get a DM on Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for telling me. Thank you so much for telling me. So no, that is not a DM that is coming from one of my supporters. In fact, the server that you are in right now is specifically only for Trump supporters. Okay, so I'll actually make it clear that my supporters have been
that's
specifically instructed to not join this Discord server. Okay, so it was not from one of my supporters, but simultaneously, I do appreciate you for letting me know that. And I'll make sure that I somehow find a way to turn off DMs from in between members of the server because
Thank you. Okay, so you're not a full-blown anti-Semite. I appreciate that. But let me just ask, do you think Israel has a right to exist?
Dude, holy shit. I'm not going
It's
to
a yes
allow
or
you
no
to
question.
pivot
I
off
mean,
of the
oh, look, he
contradiction
just
that I was
texted
able
me.
to
He said,
describe
I
in the review.
support Dean and HIHN words. So, but yeah.
The most obvious fucking racist troll ever.
Yeah, so I think it's unfortunate. Wow, I'm getting a lot of messages right now. This is crazy. Just
I
you
know.
effing Jew, just for wanting to exist. This is the problem. Our people have been, you know, if you look at our history.
Sir, I swear to God, like this is like stop trying. So you're either just straight up lying, or it is the case that there's other Trump supporters in this server that are messaging you. Once again, the server's only for Trump supporters. But I obviously still think it's wrong. I obviously still yet disagree with it. I don't care if it's somebody that supports me or somebody that doesn't support me. Of course, that things are wrong. And in fact, if there's an easy way for me to turn off messages between members of the server, that'd be great. Does anybody know how I do that? If you're watching on YouTube right now, can actually wait. I just want to take a quick pause in our conversation so I can do that because I'm looking for it. Activity alerts. No. Does anybody know how I just turn off DMs between members of the server real quick? Because I don't. Isn't it a user setting? Well, I know that there's some way to do it. There's some way to do it on the server. They have to? Okay, it's something that they have to do. Yeah. That's why I specifically only want to keep this Discord server to Trump supporters. Like, seriously, if you're a supporter of mine, just like, don't join. Don't join, man. Seriously, don't join. Let's see if there's any just super simple way. Still looking here. Because, like, even though, like, this person has, like, crazy beliefs, I, like, still don't think people should be, like, teaming them, calling them the N-word. Like, that is very wrong, regardless of who it's said to. But I don't see, like, an easy way to turn it off. All right, well, I'll continue to try to figure that one out. But seriously, if you're a supporter of mine, do not join this Discord. Anyways, I unserver muted you while I was trying to figure that out. I'd recommend turning your DMs off. But anyways, I would like you to respond to the contradiction that I was able to make quite prevalent within your position. So you said that ethnic cleansing was
I already
always
conceded.
wrong.
Yeah, I conceded to your point. I just want to ask you, do you believe that we
You
as a
have
Jewish
not.
people...
You have not, sir, because you did concede to the point that Donald Trump's plan is ethnic cleansing, but you
Yeah.
also said that ethnic cleansing was always wrong, right?
Well, I guess you can say I'm biased because I'm Jewish, but I do
Wait,
believe that we
I'm so
have...
sorry. Like your religious affiliations have nothing to do with this. You could be an active
Well, we're an
anti-Zionist Jewish
ethno-religion. I'm
individual.
actually...
But I want
Well,
you to
we're an
respond to my
ethno...
claim. Do you or do you not think that ethnic cleansing is always wrong?
Listen, if it takes our people's survival, then no.
Great. So, in other words, the entirety of your position is predicated on the acceptance of literal fucking ethnic cleansing and 2.1 million human rights violations. You should feel absolutely fucking disgusted.
Dean,
with
that's
yourself.
not at all... Look, I think what you're
I
trying to
think
do
it's
here is
absolutely
pin me in
fucking
a...
funny that you are accusing me of having Nazi rhetoric when you're the one now telling me that you don't think ethnic cleansing is always wrong. How the tables have turned.
So yeah, this is what you're doing is actually, you may not see it, and I know you're a good guy and things like that, and maybe we have our differences in these views, but you, with what exactly you're doing right now, you are perpetuating anti-Semitism
By
because
telling
you're
you that
pivoting around
ethnic
the
cleansing
question
is
and you're
always
putting me
wrong?
in this
By
corner
telling,
where
I'm perpetuating anti-Semitism by telling you that ethnic cleansing is always wrong? No. At this point, I think that you're trolling. I think that this is like a very like complicated troll to legitimately be anti-Semitic. Okay. Because you've repeated it multiple times that you are Jewish and that you believe in these things because you are Jewish and that you have these biases because you are Jewish. Like, I actually think that it's very possible this guess is like totally like an alt-right Nazi that is saying that they are Jewish and saying that it's anti-Semitic to condemn ethnic cleansing just to like literally be anti-Semitic. So I'm just gonna kick him off. I think like that is like entirely possible. I think that is entirely possible. We're going to go to get that next guest. We got Connor loading in. Everyone just go and just give us a minute. What's going on, Connor? Do you support Trump?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you support Trump?
I would say I prefer Trump over Kamala, yeah.
Wow, why's that?
I would say that his policy ultimately led to what's it called? Decreases in funding in things like Planned Parenthood and also things related to abortion, which ultimately helped my position.
Oh, abortion's bad?
Yeah.
Why?
I think that it kills an innocent human being in the womb, but ultimately, like, we can talk about abortion.
So you think
but
that you think that ending the lives of innocent human beings is wrong?
Intentionally killing an innocent human being is prima facie wrong. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think that intentionally killing an innocent human being is wrong. And I think that that is a bad principle to hold to. The reason why I say that's a bad principle to hold to is because we do observe biological cellular life in the context of brain dead patients, but we also observe
That's not true.
Doctors.
That's not true.
It is true, sir.
No, it's not. Actually, the medical definition of death was there's an act in 1986 that showed that irreversible cessation of all brain function and also irreversible cessation of cardiopulmonary function was the determinant of death. So even under your view of brain death is that if life would end when there's irreversible cessation of brain function, life would begin when there is future potential brain function.
So I do not accept the definition of brain death as death. On a biological level. The reason which I'd say that is because in the context of a brain dead patient, we still do observe cellular reproduction. And I don't think that...
Well, they start decomposing. That's why they have to harvest organs.
And I don't think that growth is going to be like a trait that we'd observe within brain dead patients.
Well, they start... I agree that people die whenever they're brain dead, but they start to decompose during that despite the fact they're on ventilators or that they're giving nutrition to them. And that's why they have to harvest organs in 7 days. But a fetus, you can give food, water, nutrition, and then it still grows despite that.
Oh, well, I obviously know and can understand the fact that there is differences between a fetus and a brain dead patient. My only argument is that we do observe biological life in the context of a brain dead patient, and I think that that is an evident truth.
Well, no,
we observe cellular reproduction. We observe. So yeah, exactly my point. I don't think that we should denote brain dead patients as observing or undergoing biological death. And the reason in which I'd say that is because we observe cellular reproduction in them. I mean, I don't think that they would. They still possess a sufficient amount of. They would possess. Connor, I'd appreciate if you let me finish.
Okay, I'll let you finish talking about
Jesus Christ. I think that we would observe like a sufficient account of markers of biological life in the context of a brain dead patient, meaning I think they'd be biologically alive, and that's why I would reject the definition of like permanent cessation of cognitive function as death.
Well, then what's your definition of death then? Because that's the actual medical consensus of death. And like whenever organisms we talk about that in the philosophical literature, they typically interpret it as the reason it's essential is because it maintains biological unity of said organism. So like for example, the brainstem has to stop working for the person to be dead. And as I said, is that the parts of your body might still be alive. Like I might have bacteria in my gut that might be alive. I might have skin cells, but you as a whole being would cease to be alive at the time
Because
of
of
brain
because
death.
of a lack of unity.
Well, yeah, because your brain kind of like it's like pulling a Jenga out from a Jenga tower. Like you're dead.
Okay, so I think there's two things that need to be touched on here. So the first thing is when you say like you as a being die, this just means that personhood stops. And I actually agree with you. I mean, I think that personhood is going to be related to an expression of sentience and or consciousness. And I don't think that we would observe personhood in the context of a brain dead patient because they wouldn't fulfill my criteria of value and or personhood, that being a lack of meeting a conjunct of past, present, or future subjective experiences. However, in the context of a brain dead patient, we still would observe said biological life. However, you did make a good point there, saying that we want to observe like the sense of unity that you described. And I think that you're right. And I know that this is a pretty popular argument against brain dead patients. But my response insofar as the unity argument, saying that we don't observe like this biological unity, is that we also do not see that same sense of unity in the context of a patient that needs a pacemaker or somebody that is relying upon insulin to live. I mean, just because some parts of the whole have stopped functioning, which would require artificial assistance for the whole to continue to function, at least for biological life. I wouldn't say that means that you're like no longer alive, or else we'd be saying that people that are reliant on pacemakers are dead. But I also just wanted to bring up another point here, because you said that you voted for Trump because of your position on abortion. Can
I respond to your point?
Sure, but I mean, I just kind of wanted to bring this back into more general scope because I had a more general question to ask you.
Okay.
Because if you want abortions to go down because abortion is bad, well, I mean, we did see a downtrend of abortions in America over the course of the last 20 to 30 years. However, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, we've actually seen an uptick. So seemingly, advocating for federal protections for every single woman and girl's right to choose leads to less abortions, contrasted to the position of banning it.
I wouldn't necessarily buy into, because even whenever you get into tracking abortions in general, is that I think that you also would have to factor in the fact that like a lot of abortions in general is that whenever I talk about, I'm a smash mouth incrementalist, where I think that we can make policy against it. And even in pro-life states, it's like people can buy drugs online to abort their children. So whenever you say like, oh, they're made illegal, yeah, we can. Like, I think there was even a study out of Texas that showed like a couple thousand children were saved by more restrictions and so on, and defunding Planned Parenthood. So it ultimately just depends on the statistic that you use, like to measure it. So I'm not going to buy into your argument. But also I wanted to touch on how you said about this conjunct of past, present, and future conscious experiences, because it seems to me that under that view,
well,
if you're going to value, no,
Connor,
let me finish.
Connor, the reason why I'm interrupting you,
bro, let me finish.
Connor, the
Basically,
reason, Connor, the reason,
talking for a long time, dude.
Connor, the
Dude,
reason
you're
why,
talking for a long time.
Connor, the reason I'm interrupting
you would have to consider
Connor,
pig.
You're not muted. The reason why I'm interrupting you is because I'm not done like critiquing your view, so I don't like appreciate the pivot to critiquing my view. However, I do want just to allow you this opportunity to offer a single critique, but there's like multiple other things I'd like to go over about your own view before we move on to critiquing my own. But I mean, if you just want to finish out with like this critique, go for it.
Oh yeah. Basically, though, when you say conjunct of past, present, future conscious experiences, that I would say that even non-human animals like pigs or squirrels would have this conjunct. So I don't see why you wouldn't protect them under your own rule. It seems that you're just saying that with humans. And I think that would actually lead you to the conclusion of Peter Singer's view of infanticide, where pretty much humans have to have a higher degree of conscious experience than non-human animals. And I think your view is very inconsistent.
Okay, well, I mean, first and foremost, the concern in which you bring up is something that I've been thinking about a lot for the last couple of years. So, I mean, for a while, I was like ethically vegan. So I did value every entity in which would fall under that conjunct. I mean, however, I've also heard a bit of pushback on the view, you know, like such as the idea that if you are like, well, I guess we don't even need to get into like the arguments against ethical veganism or like the reductionism, which would apply absurdities. But basically, like I'm agnostic on ethical veganism. So basically, there's a possible, like it's possible in which what you're saying is true. And I do value like non-human life forms in which would fall under this conjunct. However, simultaneously, there's also an alternative view where we just add on an addendum of humanity, and then there'd be like reasons to hold to that view, such as like a higher potency for, but like
So that'd be the
higher
pro-life view,
rationale,
though.
etc. And then
That'd be
there'd
the pro-life
be, and well, then there'd also be like complications considered, such as the one that you're presenting now, saying, well, if I'm going to value future, like a future potency for a higher level of consciousness in the context of a fetus, what's the difference between that and your view? Well, I'd say that mine is predicated on the current existence or prior existence of consciousness. Meanwhile, yours is not, and that's the difference. But I guess in summation, to respond to your position, I actually am agnostic on ethical veganism, and it is just possible to add on an addendum of saying, well, I don't just value like this conjunct, but I value this conjunct plus humanity. But I had one more question about your view.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Rip it.
Yeah, do you value zygotes?
I would say, I think this is just going to be the IVF clinic gotcha, but I would say that I would value a zygote relatively similar to other human life. I think that ultimately, if there's a pregnant mom, I think that's more intuitive, like, than the whole IVF clinic. Because, like, if there was 3 pregnant women and there was, like, 1 child, I think that's more intuitive than this gotcha 1,000 zygotes and then 1 child. Because I don't see really them going around, and there's also triage factors that you got to factor in. So I mean,
I'm just asking you if you value zygotes. Like, does a zygote fall under your view flow?
A human zygote, yeah. Innocent human zygote.
Okay, sweet. I mean, so just out of curiosity, do you think that IUDs murder zygotes?
No, because I think that when you get into that, there's actually, it's funny you bring that up, because in the medical like law, there's a condition called intrauterine fetal demise, where if a medical professional does not, like if they know about the pregnancy and like they disregard it and everything, then basically they can be charged with medical negligence for that. So I would say that IEDs are not murder or primarily homicide, for the reasons that it doesn't have intent. The intent is to prevent a pregnancy from happening. But also, two is that women are not going to know that they're pregnant, so they don't have a knowledge of a duty thereof of that child. So, like, if we had in the future, like, women could just spontaneously know that, like, off rip, maybe that could change. But I would say that, as I said, I think I would just extend the
okay,
medical
so you've given me 2
negligence
reasons. So lack of intent, and like a lack of knowledge that you're violating somebody's human rights. So, okay,
yeah, and that's
a response to these 2 things.
Legal standard. That's the current legal standard, yeah.
Well, I don't think that we use legal standards to depict what we think should or shouldn't be the case. And I don't think that, like, murder, I don't think that... Really? You think that it's a good reference?
Yeah, basically, like, for example, I think
So let me ask you a question. So, like, under, like, U.S. law, when engaging in unconsensual, forceful intercourse with enslaved individuals during American slavery, well, that wasn't defined as grape. So, I mean, under your view, would that not be grape? If you think that the current legislation is a good reference for what should be the case?
That's a straw man, because basically
well,
what I'm
if that's
saying,
a straw man to your position, then you disagree with the idea that the legislation dictates what should or shouldn't happen.
That's not my point. My point was that when we talk about legal and ethical precedent, we have our ethical frameworks that inform us, in which you're going to go over. And I'm glad that you are. But whenever we talk about legal precedent, is that we already have reasons and justification to differentiate the two under our current system. So the burden of proof would actually be on you to demonstrate that.
The burden of proof on me is to demonstrate what exactly? Wait, what do you demonstrate? I asked you, wait, stop. I asked you a question. My question was, do you think that the law informs us of what should or should not be the case?
No, I think that...
So your answer is no. Perfect. Then we agree. So there's no burden of proof for me to demonstrate anything, because we agree that the law does not demonstrate what should or should not be the case. But anyways, now that we can understand that, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. You told me that an IUD is not murdering a zygote, and you gave 2 reasons, a lack of intent and a lack of knowledge. So A, I do not think that intent is required for murder, and I will happily give you a demonstration.
That goes against the legal definition. Then you're just making shit up then.
If you said that an enslaved African during Emancipation era slavery was raped,
you can't just redefine shit in a debate, dude, however you want.
I'm going to go ahead and continue to speak. Thank you so much.
Don't be condescending. You're literally like having a shit argument, dude. Like, you're taking hard L's right now. Like,
so
think
I want to
no.
clarify, I do not have a shit argument, and I am not taking hard L's. And the reason why I don't
Yes,
have
you
a
are.
shit argument, and the reason why I'm not taking hard L's is because you are now telling me that, well, my idea of what murder is or is not goes against the current legal definition. So if we need to
What is the
value...
definition of murder?
Connor,
What
if
is
you
the
interrupt me
definition
again,
of
I'm going
murder?
to kick you.
Yeah, because you're taking L's.
No, because you're interrupting me. And I'm making that boundary clear. I'm just simply asking you to let me finish speaking.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Fucking hell, Connor. Do I need a server mute you?
I mean, you can kick me. I mean, like, I still made my.
I would prefer to server mute you so we could continue to engage in this conversation. Connor has an ego. The ego is being hurt because I'm winning this debate. So now he's beginning to lash out. But anyways, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. So I said that I don't think that intent and or knowledge is required to define what murder is or is not. Okay? I was then going to give you a hypothetical scenario to demonstrate to you that this is the case, that we should not define murder to include intent. But instead, you decided to interrupt me halfway through and say that goes against the current legal precedent. If the current legal precedent of murder necessarily requires intent, all that this means is that I think that the current legal precedent is wrong. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with thinking that the current legal precedent of something is incorrect. And I was going to give you an example to demonstrate that to you too, but you interrupted me there too. So let's just go ahead and fix this issue. Let's imagine an enslaved African individual in America during American slavery. A white plantation owner forced themselves upon the enslaved African individual and engaged in unconsensual intercourse with them. Was the enslaved African individual a victim of rape?
I would say so, yeah.
Connor, that goes against the current legal precedent.
Well, no, that wasn't my argument. And let me reiterate what I'm saying is that if you're just going to redefine murder, you're going to have to provide a definition, and then we're going to have to intuitively come and agree to that. And if you're just going to arbitrarily define as whatever you want, I could just say, yeah, murder does include intent, therefore I'm correct. Like,
Well,
do you understand
I define murder as the unjustified termination of a valuable life. And I'm not merely just going to say this is the definition. I'm going to demonstrate to you why this is the best definition with the following question.
So what's the difference between manslaughter, homicide, and murder?
So I don't hold a definition of manslaughter and homicide under my view. In the context of the conversation that we're having right now, all in which is relevant to define is what murder is and what a murder is not.
Well,
so
that
you're
doesn't
telling
make
me
sense
that under
to you
your,
because
Connor,
you're a moral
you're telling me that under your view, murder would require intent. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question. If I drink 3 beers and I get in my truck intending to get a full tank of gas, and on the way I accidentally wipe out a family of 5, well, I didn't intentionally do that to them. Were they victims of murder?
That would be vehicular manslaughter.
Were they victims of murder?
No, you committed manslaughter, duh.
Great. So they weren't murdered. Okay. And this is why, I would say that a definition of murder doesn't require intent because I'd find it intuitively clear that those individuals were murdered. Once again, we're not referencing legal definitions. We're referencing moral definitions to have a debate. And then, I mean, there's another example that we could also use to like define this to you. If I were to like take a gun and I was to point it through the wall besides me and I was to fire off 10 bullets without the intention of killing anybody, but just for the intention of seeing some light shows, and it does hit somebody on the other side, were they murdered?
You could have, that would probably be manslaughter. Like, as I said, that's the distinction.
Okay, so I'm not a murderer?
If you shot up in the air and it kills someone, that would be manslaughter, not murder. But if I shot you point blank for intentionally, that would be murder, dude.
Okay.
Like, this isn't complicated stuff.
So you're just saying that you define murder to require intent. I don't define murder to require intent. But I mean, there's yet another way to even have this conversation. I think that there's like a dangerous amount of like hypothetical scenarios in which we could use to demonstrate insofar as why our definition of murder should not require intent.
Well, basically, your definition. Okay, so let's take this. Let's say if I would even concede your definition that it's unjustified killing. If you are a moral relativist or moral non-cognitivist, unjustified, the foundation of that is literally just what you say, dude.
Okay,
so you could just say.
So I want to ask you a question. So
I
you,
shot
instead of
someone
having a
randomly,
conversation
that
about our
would-
normative views of ethics, you want to have a meta-ethical conversation? What a fucking pivot.
It's not a pivot. It's that you.
Of course it
literally
is,
are-
Connor.
Well, like we talked about Trump and then we talked about abortion, and if we want to go into metaethics, we can. But like, that's where it's
No,
going.
because we're still talking about abortion. Holy fucking shit.
Okay, I don't know why you're acting so smart. It's like literally that's a basic argument that if you're going to say justified or unjustified, is what standard are you holding it by? And if it's your subjective standard, then murder is AKA what I say so.
Okay, so I'm not going to provide you with my metaethical view, as my metaethical view is unironically not relevant in the slightest. Okay, so we are here to discuss our normative positions and have a conversation about what we think is wrong, and then our normative justification for the position, not necessarily our metaethical position. So, I mean, I could say that I hold these normative views because I believe in some objective sense of morality. I could say that I hold these normative views because I hold to some relative sense of morality. I could say that I hold these views because I am an emotivist, and that's just what my brain says. But regardless of my metaethical framework, these are my normative views, and that's what we're here to have a discussion on. Obviously, if we pivot into a metaethical conversation and discuss if morality is relative or objective, that is a completely different conversation that doesn't really inform us anything about politics or why we'd vote in a particular direction. But before we do pick up the conversation, literally the entirety of my my YouTube chat is telling me to check my DMs. Well, let me just give me a second. Oh yeah, everybody, that person was banned. That account was banned, everyone. I think that I banned them a minute ago. We're all good. Hey, let me know if like they come back on any other account. But like I will just once again say that if you're joining like the debate Discord, please only be like a Trump supporter. And then I'm just gonna delete the entirety of the Discord after this live. But anyways, Connor, so that's why I don't want to have a conversation with you about my metaethical views. But anyways, to go back to my question, so we're having a disagreement on if murder would inquire intent or lack thereof. I don't think that murder should inquire intent. I gave you the reasons in which I do believe that.
Yeah,
but even
and
if
your
Connor, holy fucking shit! Why are you interrupting me?
Because you're repeating yourself.
So I will at this point now have to literally keep you on mute when I'm speaking. I hate to have to do this to you. However, it is the case that it is required because you cannot control yourself. So anyways, we had a disagreement on if the definition of murder should or should not include intention. I do not think that the definition of murder should. I gave you multiple reasons insofar as why I believe this. Once again, just to kind of rehash those reasons. The predominant reason why I believe this is because if I had a loaded gun and I shot it through that wall, like the wall besides me, and it had a 5% chance of hitting somebody on the other side, and it did, even if I shot that gun with the intention of just seeing a light show, well, it is a case that I still believe that would be a victim of murder and I would be a murderer. However, even if we are to assume that murder does require intent, well, let's just kind of reframe the hypothetical example that I gave you in a way in which would possess intent. There is millions of women in America in which do have IUDs. Let's assume that many of these women know that the IUD can lead to the death of a zygote if they are sexually active and they still yet engage in intercourse knowing that fact. In fact, we could even assume that they engage in intercourse to kill a zygote. Is that woman a murderer?
So she intentionally like stabbed the baby with an IUD or something?
No, she intentionally engages in intercourse to get pregnant and kill a zygote with the IUD.
So she is intentionally going about her action to be negligent or intentionally use the IUD to kill the baby?
Yeah, a woman's engaging in intercourse for pleasure and to kill an IUD. She's just like, oh, this IUD is going to kill a zygote. I'm gonna engage in intercourse now to kill a zygote and to have a pleasurable experience.
Well, yeah, if you intentionally kill something, if I could killed you with a spoon, like that would be murder. But if you're intentionally using as birth control, then no, it wouldn't be murder. And it would meet the same legal things I laid out earlier. And by the way, it doesn't make sense because
can you repeat
I
that?
could just say it doesn't make sense.
So my question doesn't make sense. So once again, the question
doesn't make sense.
Once again, the question was, if a woman engages in intercourse to intentionally have a pleasurable experience, but also to intentionally kill a zygote with her birth control with her IUD, is she a murderer?
If she intentionally kills innocent human being, Dean, that is murder.
Okay, so if a woman does engage in intercourse with the intention of killing a zygote with their IUD, should she go to jail?
I think I'll answer your question, but basically, whenever you say that she kills the child with the IUD, is that the child, even in that situation, implants into the uterine wall. It's not like, as I said, she's directly killing the
So it
child.
actually prevents the implantation. Just saying.
That begs the question. It's like if a deer hits my car, I didn't hit the deer with the car. It's like that's begging the question. And then even in that situation, I think that in
what?
our society is that when we talk about punishments, it's like when we say we're going to punish women, I think that's like saying we should just hang the South for the crimes of slavery. Is that I think that we would have to go about it case by case and make just punishments depend on the situation. And that I don't think women get special rights to kill innocent human beings. But I think that there can be grace and forgiveness when it comes to something where obviously there's a lot of misinformation about this, which it seems that you might be experiencing some misinformation too.
So that was like a really like fleshed out response that made no fucking sense. Anyways, how about we just ask an even clearer question? If there's a zygote in a petri dish in front of me and I yeet that shit at the wall and that little zygote dies, am I a murderer?
I would say that you would get charged with some degree of homicide. Yeah.
I'm asking you if I'm a murderer.
If it's a human, I would say that
if it's a zygote in a petri dish and I throw it at the wall, am I a murderer?
Sure. Yeah, I think you're a murderer. Yeah.
Okay, and I just find that to be an incredibly absurd outcome of your position.
Yeah, but guess what? 150,000 innocent human beings die a year, and you're perfectly okay with it. And if you add that up over the last 20 years, that is over millions dead, and you just think that's ridiculous and you don't care. And yet you call people Nazis all the time and everywhere. But the thing is that literally this policy leads to disabled human beings dying. And you compare it to slavery, yet back then, 2/3 of a person ruling and all, yet you're saying, oh, they're humans, but not persons. You are more in common with those people than me or anyone. That's your position, dude.
Okay, so once again, that was kind of incoherent. I mean, that was like a little bit more of a coherent statement because I could like kind of interpret some of the things that you were saying there, but like 9 out of 10 words that you say are like completely incoherent.
Do you have an argument against
Connor,
what I'm saying, or are you just
going to
like,
interrupt me again?
You can go ahead. I mean, like, you don't have an argument.
Jesus fucking Christ. I don't have an argument? You're the one that said you think I'm a Nazi because I don't think it's murder if I was to kill a zygote? Like, I mean, I was in the middle of speaking. I was saying that kind of everything that you've been saying is incoherent gibberish. And like, I'm not even gonna lie, whatever you just said was also kind of incoherent gibberish, but I think like I was kind of able to extrapolate like the motivation. Like you were saying that I devalue some humans, but not others. I only attribute value to some humans, but not others. And that's closer to Nazi ideology. So first, I'd like to make it incredibly clear, that literally every single person does this, Connor. I could think of a group of humans that nobody values because, well, nobody values to the extent to give them the right to life because they fall outside of their moral framework. Would you like to know what demographic of humans I'm talking about, Connor?
You mean the disabled humans in Iceland that your ideology led to the deaths of?
The answer to my question is dead humans. We all hold some type of moral framework to determine what type of life is valuable and what type of life is not valuable. We all do it, okay? So you draw the line at life and death because you think all humans are valuable, but I merely an intellect value consciousness or an ability to deploy sentience, right? So the reason why I do not value a fetus prior to 20 weeks is because they do not have the ability to deploy sentience. I only value life forms in which would fall under a conjunct of past, present, and or future sentience, okay? If you fall out of that conjunct, I don't value you. I think that this is an intuitive view because it explains why we don't value brain dead patients and it explains why we don't value unicellular human organisms and completely gets rid of the absurdity of being a murderer if you fucking throw a petri dish at a wall. Right? Does that make sense, Connor? But now you're saying that I'm closer to a Nazi because why?
I'm saying you're closer to a Nazi because your ideology led to the death of thousands of disabled human beings that had Down syndrome. And I think it's a form of neo-eugenics. And I think that even if you're going to use this stupid conjunct, which I already addressed, is that would also...
Well, I mean, like, first, I'm going to go ahead and just clarify your position. So you're saying that abortion has been used as a tool of eugenics, right? Insofar as like the termination of certain life of certain like human lives, in which do possess some disabilities such as Down syndrome, etc. Okay, so here's my thoughts on that. So I think like the intention of getting an abortion because the fetus has Down syndrome is wrong. Okay, let's make that one clear. But simultaneously, there's no relevantly valuable traits in the life of a fetus in which I believe would give it the right to live. Therefore, I don't think that the death of the fetus is wrong. But we could definitely agree that the intention is wrong, okay? Like, eugenics is bad.
Yeah, because
Intentionally
you're killing an
fetus,
innocent human being.
because it has Down syndrome, the intention is wrong. But I don't think that the action is. And I think that it is fair to make a distinction between the intention and the action in of itself, okay? I find actually absolutely no relevantly valuable traits in the life form of a fetus for the reasons in which I've already denoted. Therefore, I don't attribute the life of a fetus value. Therefore, when you terminate that life, I don't think that you're doing anything wrong. However, of course, like intentionally killing a fetus because it has Down syndrome is wrong. Now, like if you want to like evaluate which one of our views is more harmful, I would definitely say that your view is more harmful, as your view has led to 66 million human rights violations in America today. I believe that restricting upon somebody's bodily autonomy without good reason is a human rights violation, and I do think that there's no good reason to ban abortion in elective lethal circumstances prior to 20 weeks, meaning that I think that's a human rights violation.
You're just gish galloping, dude. You're just gish galloping. Like, basically, a gish gallop when you just say a bunch of points and then you mute me when I try to respond. Back to my point.
I muted you because you interrupted me.
Yeah, because you're gish galloping. Back to the point.
Wait,
is that
wait. What is a gish? No. What is a gish gallop?
It's when you spew a bunch of points and you don't let the other person say it back. It was used by a guy.
Jesus Christ! Do I need to write it down on a piece of paper with polka dots and crayon for you to understand?
No, I want to address your points, but you're just saying a bunch of points because you want to get clicks and views rather than argue.
Them. Bro, Connor, you are so fucking insufferable. It is crazy. So first, I give you a really cogent rebuttal to your view. You don't have a response. So then you're like, Dean, you're a Nazi. I explain why it is the case, why I don't think I'm a Nazi, and I gave you a distinction between intention and action. I don't think the action of killing a fetus is wrong because they don't have any traits in which are relevant to moral value. However, I do think the intention of killing that fetus because it might have Down syndrome is bad. Okay, and then I went on to explain that I think the only harmful view here is yours because your view has led to 66 million human rights violations for American women and girls in our country today. And I even explained to you why I think it's a human rights violation. And you can't respond to that view either. So you just say that I'm gish galloping. Connor, with all due respect, either debate with a backbone or I'm going to move on to the next guest. Because what I'm seeing in you is that you cannot properly address anything that I'm saying. So then you're like, but Dean, you're a Nazi. And then as soon as I dispute that claim, but Dean, you're gish galloping. We're not hearing Connor respond to any of the substance on the bone here. This guy hasn't made and or responded to a single relevant point. So I'm going to give you one last opportunity to stop gibberating and actually engage in a good faith conversation, or I'm just simply going to move on to the next guest, bud.
Okay. So my point is that under your view is that basically 80 million human beings have died, innocent human beings have died in the past 100 years, but they do not go in your criterion of human value or whatever the fuck it is. And that even whenever you say that, oh, now you're making a distinction between intent and action with eugenics, yet earlier in the discussion, you said that murder can not have intent, yet that matters, whatever the fuck that has to do. So even in this situation, you contradict yourself. And then not only that is you don't let me speak by muting me. And if you're going to say this conjunct is that you would have to extend that to hydrocephalus or ancephalic children that have brain.
Before you make that point, I'd like to respond to what you just said about an apparent contradiction in my view.
To me. But basically, if someone has hydrocephalus or ancephaly and are born, is that they probably, as I said, do not have the same conscious experience as we do, and that could be delayed beyond your 26-week mark. And not only that is that since you're agnostic on ethical veganism, someone who kills hamster a hamster or a squirrel could get charged with homicide or something, but someone who kills their children or the hundreds of millions of humans that have died via abortion, that is perfectly okay in your view. Yeah, I'm the unintuitive one. And you keep bringing up the SA victims and all that.
Connor, we're going to have to keep it down to like 3 points and able for me to respond.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's called a gish gallop. That's what you've been doing.
Unironically, I made 2 points in my response to you. The last time I spoke, I debunked the fact that you called me a Nazi, and then I explained the difference between intention and action.
You believe in eugenics. So, like, if someone is 9 months along...
Oh my God, Connor, we are now at 5 points. We're now at 5 points, Connor. We're now at 5 points. I'm only going to be able to respond to so much.
All right, so if a victim of SA is 9 months along, do you think that they should be able to abort that child despite them being conscious?
Okay, thank you so much for the 6th question. I'm going to first have to respond to the other 5 things that you said. So the first
thing... Do I need to write them down for you?
Connor,
do I need to write them down like you...
Connor, are you interrupting me?
Yeah, I'm doing what you do.
Oh, you're doing what? So we got a vigilante in the life. So we have somebody that actually doesn't even want to hear my response to a single fucking thing you're saying, Connor. This is exactly the strategy of the debate. You didn't know how to respond to me debunking your position, so you call me a Nazi. I make you look fucking silly for calling me a Nazi, and then I explain exactly how it is the case that I don't think that the action of like getting an abortion is wrong, regardless of like what fetus it is, as a fetus is not as a fetus does not possess any morally relevant traits. However, I do think that the intention of getting an abortion because it would have Down syndrome is wrong. All right. And I just debunk your position. So then you go into like, I don't know, like 3 minutes of spewing shit. And then as soon as I start responding to your points, you interrupt me? Connor, do you want to have a conversation or not?
I could ask you the same question because you did the same thing before.
No, I absolutely did not. I absolutely did not. I absolutely did not, Connor. And you're interrupting me again. That is a big fat fucking lie. No. You called me a Nazi and I explained in 3 sentences how you were wrong. And I have now re-explained it 5 times.
Delusional? Are you delusional? You literally were spewing and you muted me multiple times to get out your points because it's simple.
God, okay. All right. Well, we're going to go to mute this guy and we're going to respond to his points because I guess he needs to stay on mute in order to have any type of a conversation. You know what? In fact, Connor, here's what we're going to go and do. Connor, you're crashing out because I'm beating you in a debate. I don't want to have to mute you. I hate muting the people I debate. It sucks. It is so unproductive because I know the minute I mute you, you are no longer like focused on what I'm saying and just focused on the fact that you can't speak. The minute I mute you, the viewership, a lot of the people that are preconditioned to agree with what you're saying because they're pro-life are no longer focused on what I'm saying insofar as why that view is incorrect, but they're focused on the fact that I mute you, right? Dean muting his guests is like the worst possible thing ever. I hate it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to unmute you before I begin to respond to your position, okay? And we're going to start over and we're going to try to have a productive dialogue. If you can't do it, I'm going to kick you and move on. I need you to stop crashing out. I need you to act your age and get a hold of yourself. Okay, Connor? Let's try it out. I've now removed the server mute from you, and I'm now going to begin to respond to the things that you've said. So the first point that you made was that I am now saying that there's a difference between intention and action insofar as killing or aborting a fetus that has Down syndrome. And you are saying that this is contradictory to the view that I shared with you earlier, saying that intention was not required to define murder. And you said that those 2 views are contradictory. So I'm going to ask you with very concise and easy to in a way that is easy for me to understand, explain to me exactly why those views are contradictory. If you'd like me to repeat the views, feel free to ask.
Okay. I mean, it might be hard for you to understand and you demonstrated that, but I would say that if I'm understanding...
Connor, I muted you because instead of you explaining why the views are contradictory, you just said it would be hard for me to understand. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get another guest up in here. We're going to leave Connor in the live, but we're going to leave Connor to be server muted for 5 minutes because Connor cannot have an adult debate. And Connor left. Connor, feel free to join back in the queue. At any point you want, feel free to join back in the queue, and I will bring you back up. But not until right now it's 5:14, not until 5:19. Connor is free to join the queue. Connor is free to debate, but not until 5:19 p.m. Mountain. Because what the fuck was that? What is going on, Gus? Do you support Trump?
Hello, how are you?
Yo, I'm doing all right, man. You know, I'm a little disheartened about the last guest because he was objectively a pretty educated guy. He was into the philosophy of abortion. He was bringing up a lot of good positions and a lot of good counters to what I believe in that would have led to a very productive conversation. But then the guy just started to crash the fuck out. And it's just so unfortunate to see somebody who is more educated than most on a subject just act like a toddler. But anyways, Gus Buzz, take it away. You tell us why you support Trump.
I support Trump mostly because of his DEI policies.
Because of Trump's DEI policies?
Yeah, and well,
What do you mean by
Biden's horrible DEI policies that Trump's seeking to fix.
Oh, there you go. Okay, what were Biden's DEI policies, these horrible DEI policies?
Well, it was evident in plenty of the recent air accidents, including the most recent one.
Yeah, whenever anything bad happens, you just blame it on black people. This is an example of modern day racism. You know what? I want you to specifically name Biden's DEI policies. What were they called? What was their names? What was the name of the bill? The name of the executive order? Lay it out.
Well, you're obviously pointing out something that I don't have the specifics on, but you can just tell because when you see all these accidents and they all have a common thing with them, you just notice it's either a woman or someone else. And I think you would agree with me on that one.
So your claim is there's been a lot of accidents that have happened and it's been women's fault?
Well, women or just other, the DEI people.
Who are the DEI people?
Just people who who haven't gotten into their position from merit only, and I think it should be merit only, and I think it should have been that for a long time, but Biden didn't follow through with that, and now Trump is hoping to save America.
So you're saying that Biden had policy that led to the quote-unquote DEI people. So name the policy.
Yeah. I do not have that on the top of my head.
Great. And the reason why I asked you to name the policy instead of just straight out calling this fucking blatant racism was because I thought it'd be more embarrassing for you to not only be called a blatant racist, but be called a blatant racist that has absolutely no regard for fact. So when you come up in here and you say, oh, well, it's the fault of women and black people, and it was all
I never said black people.
And it was all of Biden's doing, because it is the case. Oh, you said that you never said black people. DEI is very commonly used by very racist bigots to particularly shit on black Americans. However, there is an umbrella of other minority communities included within like the typical view that bigots hold to disparage minority communities, such as black individuals, women, etc. Okay, but anyways, my overwhelming point here is that this is very like just obvious bigotry. I mean, if it wasn't bigotry, you'd be able to, I don't know, like maybe like name the Biden policy that you're shitting on. Like I don't even know where we go from here, man.
It's not bigotry, it's common sense, and I think that's what you're failing to realize. Just
so what's
the common occurrence of all these accidents.
Okay, let's like specify one of these accidents. So I want you to explain to me how one of these accidents was to blame on DEI.
Well, the American Airlines crash into the river. You have to realize that the pilots, they were
Who were the
clearly
pilots? Who were the pilots?
Well, some of them were women. Some of the flight attendants were women.
Flight attendants? Who are the pilots?
Who are the pilots?
Yes.
I do not know their names.
So then how do you know that they were unqualified to be a pilot?
Because I've done my research. Well, clearly you haven't done your research, but I've done my research, and you can tell. Even the most recent airline, the guy, the tourist helicopter crash.
No, don't pivot. If you don't know who the pilots are, how do you know that they were underqualified?
They looked it.
What do you mean they looked it?
I don't have the specifics, but you would agree with
So
at
when
that
you say
time
that they
when you
looked
first
it,
found
are
out.
you saying that they were underqualified because they weren't white men?
Well, you have to understand that in the past, white men were privileged.
I'm
more
asking
than,
you a question. Are you saying that they were underqualified to be a pilot because they were not white men?
If that's what you're saying, then sure.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking if this is what you're saying.
To put it simply, yes.
Okay. So this is just like very blatant bigotry. I mean, I don't even know why I need to explain this. In fact, I might not explain it and just kick you. But anyways, like the meat on the bone is they're saying, well, if they're not a white guy, they're worse at the job, which just further perpetuates like a society. And
but I remember Fox
I'm
News said all this.
I'm just not even gonna explain it to you. Like I'm sorry, I don't have the energy. But anyways, we just need to get back on point. He was saying if you're working a job and you're not a white guy, then you're less qualified. So he's saying that white men are more qualified than non-white men or white non-men, etc., to work jobs. So you're saying that white men are better than non-white men at working. That claim's false. What's going on, Mikey? Do you support Trump? Also, Emmanuel, thank you so much for the 100 Australian dollars over on YouTube Super Chat. That is incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much for the love, Emmanuel. For the tens of hours of entertainment that you've provided to me and all these people, I'd like to give you this gift. That is so incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much for the love, Emmanuel. As well as River, thank you so much for the $5 over on YouTube's Super Chat. Thank you so much for the love, River. And then also Nicole for the $5 on PayPal and Alexandra with the $5 as well. And then Hannah with the $10 on Venmo, Chris with the $5 on Venmo, Kelly with the $10 on Venmo, and then Blair from 46 minutes ago with the $30 on Venmo. Guys, thank you all so very much. All right, we're going to go get that next guest up. But before we do, I'm just going to go use a restroom real quick. So for everybody watching, just go to give me about a minute here. I'll be right back.